In February 1986, a body was found floating in a pond in Sydney's Centennial Park. It was the body of a well-known prostitute and whistleblower named Sallyanne Huckstepp.
When the police become judge, jury, and executioner, then somebody has to speak.
What would follow was a series of inquests and investigations aiming to discover what happened to her in her final moments, who lured her to the park at night, and ultimately who was responsible. Unlike other murders, the suspect list wasn't long. An ex-cop named Roger Rogerson and a seasoned criminal named Nettie Smith.
Rogerson did say to her, gave her a warning that once she was out of the headlines, she was for the knock.
The reasons for both of them wanting her dead were pretty simple. She was in the way of their criminal enterprise. She exposed police corruption, which led to major inquiries. She accused Rogerson of murdering her boyfriend, a man named Warren Lanfranchi. Nettie Smith, on the other hand, didn't have as much of a motive for her death personally. He was a thug, a standover man, and a rapist. He associated at the time with Sydney's underworld. He frequented places like King's Cross and was known to have bribed detectives. The theory goes that Smith was Rogerson's enforcer and that he was the one who lured Warren Lanfranchi into a back alley in Chippendale so Rogerson could kill him. Together, they were two of the most feared men in Sydney.
One of the first jobs that I had as a young detective or an up-and-coming detective was an allegation involving a very serious rape made by a young lady and involved Arthur Stanley Smith.
Smith spent more than half his life in prison and would eventually die there in 2011. The biggest connection between him and the Huckstepp case came in the form of a taped confession with a prison informant. On the tape, Smith was heard confessing outright to the murder. He talked about strangling her and then drowning her in the pond to make sure he'd finished the job. He spoke about the murder with a sense of elation, like it was a job well done. Naturally, upon hearing the confession, Smith was charged and taken to trial for her murder. His defense was simple, that he knew he was being recorded and the whole thing was performative. In his favor was the fact that nothing in the recording counted as new evidence. Everything he said had already been reported in the media. He was ultimately acquitted, and while he would end up living out his days in prison, the Huckstepp case remained unsolved. Rogerson would also end up dying behind bars. He was convicted of another underworld murder, that of a man named Jamie Gow in 2014. Similar to Huckstepp, he too was found floating in water, only this time it was the ocean as opposed to a pond. While we have a fairly good idea of what happened to Sallyanne the night she was killed, the true identity of her killer may never be revealed. There's strong evidence as well as testimony for both Nettie Smith and Roger Rogerson being involved, but as more time passes and witnesses fade, the chances of a concrete answer dwindle.